I guess that, okay. Okay, good evening, Michael. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is the first time I've met you, and I think meeting someone, I know it's Zoom, but it still feels pretty real to me. And
Hmm.
I have a very good feeling about you already. And I'm sorry we never
Well,
met before.
thanks. Yeah, we talked many times on emails.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Anyway, it's a lot better in person. I feel like I can tune into the real Michael, and that's the best Michael is the real Michael, I think. And same for me, probably too. Anyway, our topic tonight is blessings, and I just want to say that uh, it seems like there's two ways you can go with helping the world. Maybe good works and blessings. I mean, I
hmm
know I really admire you because you've gone out there and have worked to help the poor and the homeless. And could you tell us a little bit about your good works that you've been doing as a faithist and as just a good person?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it's not as grandiose or anything. It's basically I try to, I put together food kits, uh, and I put together hygiene kits for people on the street corners, people on under the underpasses where they usually hang out, usually the freeways and whatnot, And then sometimes too, I'll join certain groups here in Houston that have their own developed groups. Because I have a few people that I work with, and I've been trying, for years to get, a core group of at least a larger group than I have. But I have like four or five people that I can depend on, who make donations, or sometimes they help me put together the kits, whatnot. Uh, so basically that's what I'm doing, and I also do work with the Red Cross. I do that, um, and I also work for from time to time. I'll do work with a food bank here in Houston.
Excellent.
So, so
Yeah.
that's basically the gist of what I do.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as the good works things, of course, it's in the Christian Bible, and but I don't. But we took a different path. We're on the Oahspe Faithist path, and of course, it says in
Right.
Book of Judgment and other places in Oahspe that really one of the best things you can do with your life is simply to go out there and help the poor and people who need help. And even though that's kind of the one of the main themes of Oahspe, I've always felt like maybe there weren't that many faithists who actually were trying to do that. And that's why I'm so impressed with you that you actually took the words to heart and have
Hmm.
worked to help the poor and distressed. And I'm wondering, uh, there must be great. Can you describe something that, like when you interact with the people who are homeless or under the bridge or whatever? What's the feeling that's going on between you? What's the spiritual vibes you're getting from all that? How do you feel?
Spiritual lives. That's a good question. Basically, people want to be helped. It's like they themselves are looking to to be uplifted by people. You know, um, and they have a plethora of problems. It's the homeless. It can be people that are you know homeless because they are into drugs or alcohol. They're dealing with psychological issues. They've had a trauma in their life, whether they're abused or something. Maybe they had poor luck and financial reasons. They end up on the street. Um,
One thing leads to another,
and
doesn't it? One thing
mhm,
leads to another. You suddenly lose your job, and then you lose your apartment, and you're out on the streets, and then who knows,
exactly.
you get attacked maybe, and you're feeling bad
Yeah.
for yourself.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway,
Yeah, that's definitely there.
uh,
But
anyways,
I think a lot of them have hopelessness. They have kind of a hopelessness with them. And in a lot of ways, I look at them and I hate to say, I don't necessarily feel a spiritual thing from them so much as I feel a desperation thing and a hopelessness. And I guess in a way, they just need someone, some group, something to help them with that hopelessness, to uplift their spirits, to uplift their situation. And
that's a great point. And the, the your mental attitude can certainly worsen when bad things start happening, and you're just looking for uh, like
oh gosh, yeah, that's so true.
you're looking for like a rescue, a rope, something that you can hang,
A
you
rope, I like that. It's, exactly, they're looking for a rope. Yeah.
pull you out of the waters you might be drowning in, kind of.
Hmm.
Uh,
Exactly.
so um, these people have different problems, and do you end up seeing them more than once? Is it just like a one-time gift, and how does that usually go? Is it a regular thing you see these people, or is it so many people that you'll never you just end up seeing so many different people?
You mean the volunteers, or you mean
Oh,
the
the
homeless
people that are,
themselves?
yeah, the homeless people in trouble. Do you end up seeing the same
Oh, okay.
people, or
Yeah, it depends on the area. So it's really weird in Houston is that they have pockets of homelessness. I mean, they collect themselves in various areas, and usually they're near
Oh,
something that. Hey,
excuse me,
guy.
Elijah?
hi.
This is Michael. Michael, this is Elijah.
Hi, Elijah.
Elijah's from Japan.
Hi. How are
Hey,
you?
it's good to meet you.
The pleasure is all mine.
Anyway, Elijah, I feel suddenly inspired to go with Michael's story because he's been working with the homeless people,
Oh,
which is, of course, one of the great things Oahspe advises to do.
that's
So
great work. Yeah.
yeah, I'm, I just asked him. The question was, what do you see the same people on the streets? And he's been telling us that, the main thing. I asked him what the spiritual feeling was, and he says desperation, hopelessness, people who have lost their jobs, their homes, and they're on the streets now living under bridges, and they don't know where to turn, and they feel desperate. And so
Hmm.
I was just asking him to describe uh, what what's going on, and please feel free to ask questions or make a question, make a comment. So I think it might be good. I brought up by saying there's two things we can do as a faithist, and that's one, good works like Michael's doing, and the other one was blessings, which is a spiritual force.
Hmm.
Yes.
And Michael's been talking about these people feel the need to be uplifted, and I think there's a connection there. If we can help these people like become very positive in their thinking, and
Exactly.
maybe that's the blessing helps blessing helps the blesser and the blessee. Anyway, that's it. But I want to let Michael go on, tell us a little more detail. So that's where we're at,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Okay.
okay. So the question was, Elijah, um, do you see these same people again, or do you have like build a relationship with them, or is it kind of like one and done?
Every now and then you'll find one particular homeless person that you connect with. I don't know, I know I've had a couple, oh, actually several, where you know I used to be. Let me just stop that story. I used to be with another group that worked and did the homeless. This was like 5, 6 years ago, and they had a very interesting structure how they did things. What they did was they assigned every volunteer a homeless person,
Mm,
and I haven't seen that done in a while. And that's something, and I like that because you had a personal connection with them, and it was almost like being in a shar. I like a you know
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
uh, and you would. do what you could for them. You would take them places, or if they whatever they needed, you try to get it for them.
You can,
Um,
and a social worker too. Like, were you trying to help them find a job or
yeah,
place to stay, stuff like that?
yeah, we would do. Yeah, exactly. That was part of it as well. It wasn't a big group, but it had a weird name because it's called Fun Day with the Homeless. I don't know why they did that, but that was the name of it. Fun Day with the Homeless. But like I said, I like the concept of the group, and they stayed together maybe like 5 years, and then the volunteers slowly kind of drift away. They lose interest, or that's what it usually happens. People, their everyday lives take over, and I had friends who were like grandmothers all of a sudden, and then they had to focus on that because they were grandparents now, and
Yeah,
they
yeah, it's a kind of a big dilemma for people. You live your life to help the people in your life, like your family and friends, and, uh,
hmm
and for yourself. But there's also people on outside of that circle who are desperate, like you said. And if we read the words from Oahspe, the Book of Judgment, it says, I want my blood to boil so that I go out to help the poor, not just like take care of my own business, but to make some kind of real sacrifice and contribution. And
hmm
at the same
What
time,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, what I also consider very interesting is that in Oahspe it also says that it the creator appreciates it if we help other people, if we are selfless and all that. But what he also says is that it is very important how we help
Oh
people.
yeah, that
And
is the greatest.
also, yeah, and
Yeah.
there was that example in Oahspe, which it was also, I think, in the Book of Judgment, where the creator or God said to us that there was that man who he was very rich and he wanted to help the poor, the homeless.
hmm
So he built one soup kitchen. And he built a
Right.
soup kitchen, and then the homeless came, they ate, they were fed, they were not hungry anymore, and they came every day. And then the next month or so, I think, more homeless people came, more and more people came day to day. And after 1 month or so, there came so many people that one almshouse was not enough to feed them. So he had to build a second almshouse in order to feed all the other homeless people. And they were fed. But the number of homeless people was increasing. It was increasing. And there were more and more people who wanted to get fed. And the reason why that is not because the number of homeless people suddenly increased, but furthermore, because more and more people thought, oh, I'm taken well care of. And instead of doing something productive, they thought that they really could go to the house of alms and get fed. That
hmm
is an example which is not from me, but from Oahspe. And I don't think that the creator like criticizes everyone who like does it in that way, like in building or organizing almshouses. What I rather think is that the creator wants us to not only feed those people, they need to be fed. They have necessities, they have needs, like every human, they need to be fed because right now they can't feed themselves. Right now they are helpless. But I think it's also important that you also like help them that they are able to help themselves in the future. Like
Right.
I think in the next chapter, in the next verse, God says that another good idea to help those people is to give them jobs, like to create new jobs so that they can use their talents in order to feed themselves, but not only to feed themselves, but furthermore to help the community to become
hmm
productive members. And that also
Right.
increases their self-worth. And that's very interesting.
Yeah,
And it's
Yeah.
something that stuck with me for years.
thank you, Elijah. Michael, go ahead and respond. It is a it's
No,
quite an
he's
issue.
absolutely he is absolutely right. I mean, I face that dilemma sometimes when I'm out there working because I see, the old Christian saying, you can teach a man to fish, or you just give him fish, and it's better to teach him how to fish so that he can feed himself, right? Like in other words, what Elijah said, like help yourself, help those, let those help themselves, Um, and so that's a dilemma for me because sometimes I kind of lose. I don't know what the word would be. I kind of lose confidence because I can see that what we're doing is exactly what Oahspe said and what Elijah just read. I mean, I can see that we're 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 almost placating the situation. We're not really developing them so they can, you know, create a foundation for their own lives. And it's a thing. It's a conundrum. It's a real conundrum for me. But what I do sometimes is I look at it like in grade school you have A students, B students, C students, D students, F students, and I kind of look at like what I'm doing is basically just a C student mentality. It's not A because it really isn't producing them to produce themselves, produce productivities for them to lift themselves up. But then it's not F by people don't do anything,
Yeah,
which is the worst. So
yeah.
you kind of like, that's it kind of picks me up and say, well, I wish I could do more. I wish I was more motivated because, you know, I'm like any human. You have your ups and your downs, and we're not perfect and whatnot. And I sometimes spend more time for myself than helping others. But I just do what I can, basically where I am right now.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
hope one
It's
day that
better
I can,
system.
because I have these
Yeah.
ideas to create a factory or to create buy some land and let them work the land, and so they can learn a skill or that kind of thing. I mean, I have these ideas in my mind. I haven't produced them, but I can see that would definitely be more productive and definitely be more on the lines of what Oahspe is talking about, the most creative way to uplift the poor.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Go
have
ahead.
a question for all of you.
Yeah.
Have you all read uh, Book of Jehovah's Kingdom
What's it
Sure.
called?
Sure.
or the Book of Shalom? Yeah, you all
Oh,
have,
the Book of
right?
Shalom. Oh, yes, the Book of Shalom. Yes.
Yeah, I think that book answers, I think, the question all of us ask. We all want to help. But the problem is what also the Book of Shalom says straight in the beginning is that we live in Uts, right? And Uts is like, I think Uts is, it is the society we live in, which is not Shalom. There is, I think, no Shalom at that point yet. And the problem is that the system is the problem. Like, we live, that's also something
Yeah.
which is touched upon in Radiance. What about you, Michael? Do you know, have you read the Eloist anthology or Sunrise of Radiance?
I've read in and out of it. I've read, I haven't,
Okay,
basically studied it. I'm a slow reader, unfortunately. So there's so many books out there to read. I'd love to read, but I'm a little behind.
okay, that's great.
But I do have a copy of Radiance. The new copy that the Eloists produced, and
Because,
it's a great book.
yeah, it is. It is like right now, Radiance is the main book I study, even more than Oahspe, because it's also more modern. It also explains many things in Oahspe. I think Oahspe is not complete without Radiance. I think you need to study both books in order to understand each other. And what Radiance also further explains is that the condition of the world, the main problem, the source of all evil is selfishness. And it's not a philosophical statement, it is a scientific statement. Because every thought of every human creates a vortex, you know? And every vortex creates matter. That's how spirit becomes matter. Thought, behind every matter
Wait,
is
stop.
thought.
Stop. Explain meta, Elijah. What do
Matter?
you mean by meta? What do you mean by meta? Matter,
Um,
matter.
matter. Yeah,
Oh, I
matter.
thought you were saying meta. Okay, matter.
Oh,
No,
matter,
no,
matter.
matter. Yeah, it was
Okay.
matter. I mean, I meant
Corporeal,
matter. Yes, corpore, matter. Yeah. In
corporeal,
Oahspe, it's called
corporeal
corpore.
substance.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, and every matter is created. Every atom is created by a vortex, right? But every vortex is created by thought, and that's also why. Have you also read the gospel, the Essene Gospel of Peace? Any one of you?
No.
No, I haven't.
Because it is very important to study that book, because Oahspe confirms that the Essenes were legit, that they were faithers, and that's why the Essene Gospel of Peace is also legit. It is also compatible with Oahspe. I've studied it, I've compared it. It's compatible. It's legit, and the book it is also confirmed by many other good, legit spirit reports, which also confirm Oahspe. And the Essene Gospel of Peace tells us that there is an angel for every element. Like there are angels which which create matter. I mean, that is also true because Oahspe also tells us about the Oetans. And the reason why I tell all of these is so that you can understand the context of what I'm saying later on. Every matter is created by thought. That means that every thought has a consequence. It has a direct.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is very true, and I'm completely agreeing. But I don't want to get too far off the topic. To
No,
what
because
I mean to say
what
is you brought up a very important point about trying to help people, and I think
may I can I conclude this maybe
yes,
only conclude.
yeah, go
What I
ahead.
want to say is that selfishness momentarily reigns in the world, and the problem is that people need to go away from that selfishness, from the free will, and that's why the Book of Shalom tells us that later on in the future we are not supposed to like fix Uts, but instead we have to create a parallel society which is called Shalom, and that society is supposed to grow exponentially so that Shalom in the future engulfs the whole world. That's the solution which the Creator gives us,
Very
and
good.
that's what we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, very good points. And I think the concept of selfishness being destructive to the world is really the key to everything. And
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the idea that
Yes,
we can change our thoughts to help people. Probably the best. Even you talk about the fish, teaching a man to fish, but teaching a man how to think positively is kind of like another
that's true.
great step
Yeah,
forward, which Radiant
absolutely.
exemplifies. Um, but I also want to say that what Michael pointed out earlier is that there's kind of like that grading system, and I think there really is. I kind of feel like there'll never be a shalom until you're willing to go out onto the streets and help the people out there.
of course.
So it's like everything can be very theoretical, but there's this guy named John Smith. He's under the bridge. He's hungry. He feels no one loves him, doesn't care about him. So I think what Michael's doing is very important for all faithists to keep in mind is yes, we'd like to teach him how, we'd like to give him a job, but at the same time, going out there and interacting with them, that's a
Of
big, big
course.
spiritual step. And I
Mm-hmm.
think
Yes,
even though it seems like you were saying before that maybe it's not really doing that much, but I think
No, he is doing much. I
yeah,
don't think that he is not doing much. I
yeah, you
think
don't
I completely agree with him what he is
yeah.
doing. Yes, I just wanted to point out that he told us, like you told us, Michael, that there are some times in which you like are a bit desperate or a bit like let down a bit. You feel a bit let down sometimes, and it's okay to feel
yes.
that way because
Mm-hmm.
it is not your fault that like these people
No,
like suffer that way.
no,
You
no.
always have to keep in mind that it's the system, and that's why you can't like save everyone, but that's okay because the system needs change.
But
The creator sees that you do your best.
yeah, within an arm's reach, as Oahspe says, do all you can within
Yeah,
arm's reach.
that's what I wanted
Um,
to tell. I actually, yeah.
yeah, everything you're saying is important. And we need good spiritual principles that Elijah's been talking about to go forward to know how to proceed. And Michael, I know you know these principles too pretty well yourself. And uh, do you see any hope for us working together to help the poor, or how do you see your next spiritual projects going? Just keep going on, or
Oh, that's a good question. I like I said, I think I'm working, as I said earlier, toward trying to do that, to create something where a foundation of something where people can help themselves. I mean, that's basically what I'm always thinking. I meditate on that concept, like like the group that we had talked about earlier. I talked about earlier about what we used to do. We would take each volunteer took a homeless person, and we became their personal kind of guardian, almost in a way, social worker.
Ashar?
I think yeah, sure, yeah, exactly. Uh, and I'm always trying to think of other things to do to try to uh, create that highest principle, the highest light that Oahspe talks about in this area, and that is, like Elijah mentioned, helping people so they can help themselves. Basically, that to me, that's what I'm working toward, if anything else.
And
Because like I said, I can see the failure. I can kind of see um, that I'm almost, and I hate to say this, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but in a way, I do feel as an enabler, if that makes any sense.
oh, I see. Yes, you feel like things are
Because
getting worse. You're saying,
yeah, because if you keep feeding them and they come back, you're kind of like destroying that thing that develops in them that to help themselves. You're killing the self in a way, you know.
mhm. So it's a
I can
dilemma.
And
totally feel what you're saying because I might right now I'm not like helping homeless people actively, but that's a problem I also face if I'm helping normal people I know, like family and friends. If I'm helping them, and I like to help
Yeah.
people, but the problem is that my parents always notice that they tend to like use me sometimes. They
yes.
they use my helpfulness, my willingness to help, and they kind of like they think that they don't need to do stuff because I'm there to help. Like sometimes I help too much sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and the parents also tell me that I need to go. I need to approach this situation more wisely. Like I also need kind of to like teach them a lesson somehow. And sometimes not helping is more helpful than helping directly. That's also what they taught me.
A good point. Good point. Can
Yeah.
I just add? I want to add something that Elijah had said earlier in other videos, and that is just being nice to people, kind to people, strangers
Mm-hmm.
was a kind of service too, being positive toward
Yes.
people, smiling. And
Yeah.
I don't want to,
Absolutely.
you can build a community, you can help the homeless, you can smile at people and make them feel happy. And I don't want to say there's a time and place for everything where we can turn to service. We can only turn within to the ever-present creator and say, what can I do at this moment to help others?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, actually, I'm trying to say, I don't want to say that you can't just say there's one way to do this, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
there isn't one way. No, we need creative ideas, and then OSPE teaches the diversity, and it teaches a conundrum of all different kinds of approaches. It's not always just one way or one thing, because you can look at the universe and see the diversity that the Creator has created. I mean, given us in every area. It's not just. I mean, the flower, the so many variety of flowers and trees and snakes and lizards, and in every facet there's just multiplicity of things. So there's not because I always am leery of people that to say, "Oh, there's only one way." That, and that's why I got turned off Christianity because I figured, no, there's not just one way. I mean, it's just not. That's not true.
Very
So
great
Yeah.
points. Elijah, respond. Anything to add?
No, I agree, because you also have to always have to consider that every person you are helping is unique. That means that you need to help that person uniquely.
Good point.
exactly, great point. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
That's kind of this. I don't know if that's dovetailing to what I want to say. Is one thing I want to do with our discussions was to help us get these creative ideas. I even wanted to have like a spiritual power, like somehow we could unite our spirit and I don't know, bless the world, inspire the world in some way.
It is possible.
Yeah, maybe we could figure things out. I'm glad you said that, but I don't. Maybe that's another discussion. But this really sets the groundwork for what we can do as a group spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, any thoughts about that, guys? Like what can we do as a spiritual?
That book,
Oh,
it tells us how to do it.
okay.
The Readings Anthology.
I
That
agree.
also talk about the science of how to do it. What you are talking about.
Thank you.
We have to create a dynamo. It's called a dynamo, a spiritual dynamo. That way, we can do exactly what you are recommending. We can unite our spirits and create something beautiful, which can help the whole world. And that was what I was also always talking about. Like, there is this ideal also in Radiance. This ideal is called the sun vortex. It is a type of person which has the spiritual power to heal the world. And every person has that potential to become a sun vortex. That's also something I'm studying right now, how to become a sun vortex, because that is the key to change the world. And everyone can become that.
Michael, any response or ideas?
Can you spell symbiotic? What did you call that? How do you say that, Elijah?
What
Symbiotic? Is that
the ideal, or what do you mean?
Dynamo?
No, the word. What's the word itself? What did you call it?
We have to create a dynamo, a spiritual dynamo.
D-Y-N, A-M-O? Dynamo.
Yes, dynamo. It's called a dynamo.
It's interesting.
But there are really good instructions of how to do it. Like, we just have to do it, basically. We just have to follow those instructions.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to say it isn't like I never did good works. I don't
So
want to.
is it a ritual or something?
No. It's basically the idea is that over time, if you can train yourself individually and even better with a group to create good thoughts which spiral in an uplifting manner, you can send like positive energy to people in your life who need the help, or to people you don't know, or even to situations, maybe the people in Gaza, maybe the people in Lahaina, maybe the people in Ukraine, and you can create some kind of connection between the spirit world, the heavens, and the mortals who are suffering, and the spirits who are suffering, who are dark and hurting people. Spirits are lifted away from. There's a lot of bad spirits who are influencing the wars and violence. Take them away, and it gets easier.
Don't forget the knots above Germany, foremost. There is a huge knot in which Trieste is still imprisoned, and I think they still have to save him. I don't think that he's free right now. Do you know Trieste?
He's speaking of the hells, the spirits who have committed a lot of violence, did bad things, get stuck together, and they're hurting each other, and they're trying to hurt other people. They need to be set free, and they need to be re-educated. And
and the angels are working tirelessly in order to dissolve those knots in atmosphere.
Anyway,
we have, and they have a negative impact. Yeah,
we can add our energy and power and positivity to that situation, any situation we focus on. And Michael, response?
Not really. I'm, this is an area that I confess that I don't know a lot of, but I definitely want to learn.
It's basically
The creating
of
positive energy.
the power of prayer.
Yeah,
We're talking about the power of prayer, really.
yeah, power of prayer, exactly. All that, right?
And
Thoughts, positive thinking, creating,
yeah, like if you had lessons for
like
the
what you were
homeless,
saying, vortexes.
like if you had lessons for the homeless where they could
See, that would be an interesting thing. I'm glad you said that because that's something that I could add to, some of the groups the meetings that we have because, you know,
positive thinking.
it's, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so everything Elijah said is very true and very fundamental to helping the world. And I
Hmm.
only got like a minute left. So if you have any closing thoughts, maybe take 20 seconds each to say anything. I would like the next meeting to be about the nuts and bolts of the dynamo blessing vortex thing, if we could. But final thoughts, guys. Thank you so much. You're great, both of you.
Let's do this.
Yeah, that would be a great next meeting. I would definitely love to learn. Is that Elisha? Is that into one particular place in Radiance in the book Radiance?
Throughout
You mean which page?
many places, many.
Dynamo. Yeah, yeah. Is it in a particular?
I can look it
I know
up.
how
I can
a
do the
Radiance.
research. I have a special
Oh,
way to do some
okay.
research. I give some search words, and yeah,
I can
I
email you.
have.
I can email you stuff if you want, Michael.
Okay. Great. Thank you. That'd be nice.